Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Digital Hustle. I'm Mike, and I'm here with my co host, Joe. And today we're going to talk about market research. There's so many things that you have to think about and focus on when you're starting a business. But we believe that the most important step is going to be finding your target audience, getting other people's opinions so that when you're ready to roll out your product, you know who you're going to roll it out to and how you're going to get it out. And to do that, you have to do market research. So, Joe, can you tell us a little bit about what is market research? How does it affect us in our day to day as entrepreneurs, and why it's so important?
Yeah, so market research is a combination of a lot of different things. It's putting surveys in front of people, testing different audiences, segmenting your audiences out. But it's pretty much getting people's perspective on the idea so it can start to guide your marketing strategy. Because you kind of don't want to put a lot of effort behind the idea, put it out in front of people, see that nobody wants it, and you kind of just put some months down the drain.
Exactly.
So another part of that is doing like competitor analysis. A lot of people always focus on, hey, who's my customers? Who's my clients? But you want to know who your competition is too. Because if you know who they are, you kind of know what markets are already out, what products are already out in your niche, that kind of stuff. And then you kind of don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, which you don't want to do. You don't want to spend time doing that, if it's already out there.
I like to call myself like a professional reverse engineer. Like I kind of just take things that are already done and already like proven, and I can kind of use that and this I have this spin on this idea, and that's like totally fine.
So
I,
how do we really start finding our industry and and our niche, right? So how do we know once we have an idea or have a product, where do we start? Like how do we first generate the first piece of information? Where do we find our interest?
yeah, so you could start kind of a lot of places. I think one place that worked out for us well is doing like surveys. So creating like a survey on Google Forms, something you know well. Uh, so you want to talk about like the process of creating a form on there, how easy it was, and
Yeah. It's actually really easy and it's awesome because it's free, right? You don't have to pay for it. All you have to do is have a Google account and then you have access to it. But it allows you to create a form that so that you could send it out to the mass, right? You can send it out in LinkedIn. You can send it out on different survey like swap community websites where you fill out a survey and you send it in and then they give you a survey or excuse me, and they do your survey and you can get responses like that. You can send this survey out to different Facebook groups or local community groups, different websites and like Reddit streams and all this kind of stuff. You can send it out to get responses to see how people are feeling. You just got to be careful with it because you might generate a ton of responses, and so then you have to go through them and validate them and make sure you know exactly excuse me, which survey you sent you sent out on which platform, so you know exactly where that information is coming back from. But the tool is really cool because you can track everything, right? Everything gets taken in and put into a spreadsheet or into each question as you break it down, and it gives you different graphs and percentages on all the answers and responses that you get back. And it's just such a powerful tool, and it allows you to customize it in a way where you can really make it specific to get the exact answers from what you're trying to get. And so you just want to make sure that you take the time to craft it in a way, and each platform might be a little different.
what are like some? Do you remember like some of the questions we used on like a survey, like some maybe like general questions you probably want to ask?
Well, first it starts with like we, first you want to get a lot of general information, like who are they, what do they do, so what are their credentials essentially is what you're trying to find out. Like, are they a qualified lead? When you get further into the list of the questions that you want to know about. So the questions you have to just, it's about what you're looking for. So if you're a florist and you have a business and you're trying to sell your flowers, right? You're gonna find out which communities are interested in buying flowers. So you can start tailoring some of these questions. Do you ever send flowers to your family for events or special occasions or things like that? You give them one fill in option and then a couple bubble options, obviously depending on the question. Um, But questions like that are tailored specifically to the persona that you should create when you're trying to find your target audience.
Yeah. And then, of course, once you have the survey, you have to get it out in front of people. So there's the organic path. Me personally, I like the advertising route because I'm an advertising pro. So my favorite tools are like LinkedIn, social media, TikTok, Facebook. And I like those platforms because you can dive straight into it of, hey, I want to target people 18 to 29 that have interest in flowers that, live within this certain geographic area. And it allows you to drill down to very specific people. So then as you put an ad in front of them, it's relevant. You can kind of collect that data back. And I like all the data I kind of get back from them. And it's interesting because we had a client that pretty much wanted to break out into the market with educational sources. And we kind of, it came to a roadblock of, hey, let's try out advertising. They didn't really have the budget for advertising. So then they had to go the organic route. So I think it's good that we can kind of talk about it from both sides because people don't always have the budget to jump into advertising and keep it consistently going. So we talked about like a little bit of the survey sites. What was your experience like on the survey sites? Like how do you feel about the quality and things like that that came back from it?
Well, what the survey sites, it's not like LinkedIn, where LinkedIn kind of really knows, it has your resume, right? So it knows your job titles and it knows your experiences and things like that, and so it can kind of, more get you more defined audiences versus like a survey swap or a swap website that you do their survey, they do yours. It can just be anybody doing it up there, and that's why you put some of those very specific questions. What do you do? What's your job? Like, do you have interest? Have you ever done any of this, or this? Right. That way, once you start reading these responses, you can start filtering them out. Right. Like anybody who says no to this question, like doesn't need, we don't need their answer or their response anymore. And so you can start filtering it out like that. And then you end up with a list of people that you do want to reach out to or start sending your marketing stuff to, or just, areas that you want to do it to based on those responses.
Yeah. And I think that's why I'm so hesitant against the organic route is that where it's like shooting in the dark with organic, where it's like advertising is like, hey, I know exactly who I'm putting my thing in front of.
Yeah, exactly. And the organic thing is really important, right? Like, because it's like you could get it out for free. It's just you have to. So again, it's kind of with the survey swap thing. It's like you get what you put into it,
Yeah.
right? If you're doing other people's surveys, you'll get like the credits, and then you can it starts getting seen more and things like that. But same with, like, you can just go to any local online community groups. Like Facebook has so many different groups. Other websites have so many different groups that all you have to do is go in there and post. But the thing about organic is you have to be consistent, right? You have to constantly be pushing these things because you don't have a system just doing it for you,
Yeah.
right? You have to take the time and do it yourself. Otherwise, you can go the paid route. Things might be a little bit easier, but because they're more automated and you don't have to spend as much of your physical time doing it, but it's more expensive, and if that's not a problem for you, and for some of our customers it's not, and that's great, and they don't have to worry about that part of it. And we get to do our end. We get to do our work, which is the market research, which is the specific ads that we want to place in front of the right people.
And I think a lot of it is like a time versus money thing
Yeah.
of, hey, if you have the time, by all means go into organic because I
Yeah.
believe I watched you do hours of posting it in content
A lot. A lot.
into groups and things like that where it's like I spun up an ad. I probably had everything completed in a couple hours and not just let it run.
Yes, exactly. Versus
It-
the hours that you have to spend actually going into the groups, posting it, responding to other people's stuff so that, they are more inclined to respond and check out yours. It's a lot, but exactly. But it's also a lot of good experience, right? Because then you start understanding how people think, you start getting people's ideas. And sometimes you might not get somebody to write or fill out your survey, but they might write a comment that helps or something like that, or they get a bunch of likes or something that helps you know, like, you're on the right track. But again, you just got to be consistent with that and put the effort in. because it can get very expensive to run these ads. And if you don't have a big budget, you're not going to see the results that you expect. You know,
Or know
and
what you're doing too. You
yeah,
gotta you gotta know what you're doing.
exactly. And people pay a lot of money to have these services done by somebody who does know,
Yeah.
because it's so far out of their realm. But these, no matter what, they take time, and that's what we make it very clear with our customers. Like, what you really should expect with this.
Yeah.
We can't obviously be down to the number, but in general, like, you need to know this is a long process. It takes time to develop. Things like that. Some people just give you their money and then immediately want a result, and it's like it doesn't work like that. And this better than I, that it takes a lot of time to make sure that you line these things up for the long-term success of the company, and we're there looking out for them.
Yeah. Because we also looked into with this specific client, like a tool like Uplead Sales Navigator, where you also another option is buying lists.
Yeah.
Whereas you can go into these platforms and say, hey, I want to get contact for information for all business owners in this area, in this industry. And there's a lot of platforms that just specialize on collecting data. The data is king these days.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have access to those lists, now I don't have to spend hours looking or trying to create my own. I can just purchase one, right? And now, excuse me, and now you can just do it that easily. You just start sending your emails, or sending your ads in that direction without having to spend the time just doing it. You still have to filter the leads out, right, and see what's qualified and what's not. And I think most of that's still going to be human based work, right? Like, somebody has to understand, like, look at the data and know if they're looking for this right person or not. But that would be the next step, would be that phone call. Now that I got them, now that we've built up to these numbers, and by doing the different techniques with marketing, now we can reach out, or they're reaching out to us.
Because one thing you could do, I know, well, we talked about like incentive. So in the beginning, one thing we used was like an incentive tool of like, hey, here's a $25 gift card, and I'm just going to do a drawing for everyone who submits a survey, because people get surveys, advertising thrown in front of them all the time. So you kind of want to incentivize people to spend their time on something, especially if they're coming from like a social media site.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be something big. It can be just, any swag that you have of your brand. It can be a hat. It can be a lighter. It could be a pen, whatever it is. It's like, just, people love free stuff. Might as well take advantage of that when you're trying to get that information out there and get that feedback. So yeah, so there's a lot of different places that you can start. When you're looking for market research, and how to go about doing it. And so I hope some of the topics today that we covered helped in that avenue. And hope you guys listen to us next time. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.